Hey, welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Uh, Today we have three students that have joined us uh, in order to answer questions for you. So I'll give about five, maybe a little longer, 5, 7 minute presentation. I'm going to move through a lot of information very quickly about the Department of Chemical Engineering. Then we're going to open it up for your Q&A. If you have additional questions past that, you can certainly contact us by email. So I'm Dr. Gary Whiting. I'm an undergraduate advisor and professor of practice in the Department of Chemical Engineering at Virginia Tech. We're situated in Goodwin Hall on the campus of Virginia Tech here in Blacksburg, Virginia. We're sorry that you can't be with us in person. We really enjoy interacting with you as students and families when you come for campus visits. But unfortunately, with things today, we're not able yet to open back up. So we're hopeful that that will happen, and next year will be a more normal year for us. So with that, I'm going to go into this little presentation on our department regarding what our curriculum is and what are some of the jobs that you can envision with chemical engineering. All right, let's see. There we go. What is chemical engineering? Well, we're going to start with a traditional definition of chemical engineering. It is starting with a bench scale synthesis of materials and then scaling up of value added products. So starting at the bench and then working, and you got to figure out how to make that on large scale. So you're going to move into it, usually a pilot plant, and then scaling to full scale. Designing, constructing, and operating processes to produce products at large scale in a safe and environmentally responsible manner, in a way that adds value to the company you're working for and society. So society needs a lot of different products, and chemical engineers help deliver those. And that's been the traditional definition of chemical engineering. And traditionally, you might think of chemical engineers working on a large plant such as this. This was a plant that I worked on quite a number of years ago, producing large scale materials for paints, plastics, and paper. So that is something that chemical engineers do work towards, process engineering, and working in this environment. I worked in research and development in this building here. But it's so much more than that now. Chemical engineering, chemical engineers have quite a wide variety of application spaces they can work in. You can go work for a consumer products company such as this. You can produce different types of materials, polymers, fibers, ceramics. You can produce beverages and foods. You can go into energy production like Tesla battery. I have one student now that's a senior. He's interviewing out at the Gigafactory for Tesla. You can go into cosmetics and skincare, medicine. We have one student that's graduating, going on to medical school. National security, safety, environmental, and sustainability, green engineering type opportunities with companies like ERG, automotive battery development, coatings, biological engineering, biomedical engineering, electronics, and legal aspects, things like patent law. Chemical engineers are very capable, and our students get hired into all these spaces. So it's not just process engineering in a traditional sense anymore. Some companies that recruit are chemical engineers. You may have heard of some of these companies like Georgia Pacific, Honeywell, International Paper, Micron. They produce computer chips. Computer chips are in tremendous demand today. We have a shortage of computer chips. Universal Fibers, Merck, Pfizer, Anheuser-Busch, PepsiCo, W.L. Gore and Associates making medical products, WestRock, Deloitte Consulting, Michelin, DuPont, Milliken, Lord Epic Systems that make hospital software. So quite a wide variety of companies that our students also go work for. How do we prepare you as a chemical engineer? Well, you're going to come in, you're probably taking some chemistry and math in high school and physics. Well, you're going to have that and more your first few years here at Virginia Tech. Your first year's in a common general engineering curriculum where you're going to take 2 semesters of chemistry, physics, math, introductory engineering courses. The second year, you're going to have mass and energy balances in the chemical engineering department and thermodynamics, and then organic chemistry, as well as additional math courses, physics course, physical chemistry. So we're going to get a lot of fundamentals in those first 2 years. In the third year, you're going to be taking primarily chemical engineering fundamentals courses, things like fluid flow, separation processes, reactor design, process measurement and controls. So we're going to give you a really good training. Chemical engineers from Virginia Tech are known to be well trained. By the third year, after your third year, you're going to move into something called Unit Operations Laboratory. And this is essentially a scale-up lab. So you start with bench scale chemistries, and in Unit Operations Laboratory, you learn how to go more to pilot scale, which eventually will lead to full-scale plant design. And we have larger scale equipment, and on the next slide, I'll explain a little bit more about your opportunities for UO Lab, Unit Operations Laboratory, Summer Lab. We also have cooperative education, which is summer internships, and some semesters, some students go out on co-op rotations where you can make good money, about half of what a chemical engineer would make. You get tremendous experience, practical experience for that. And those that do that are some of the more desired students when they graduate. Undergraduate research, we have a slide on that coming up too. And then moving your senior year into your capstone senior design. So what about Unit Operations Laboratory? We have 3 possibilities for that. About 60 students, 30 in each session, summer 1, summer 2, will take the course in Blacksburg. And it's a pretty intensive 6-week course here with Virginia Tech professors and TAs in the summer. You'll be working with a number of students in team-based development of different experiments, and we generally have like 6 to 8 experiments in there that you'll work through with them, and you'll learn soft skills, presentation skills, etc. Here in Blacksburg. But what if you want to study abroad? Chemical engineering is one of the few curriculums here at Virginia Tech that has an ingrained study abroad program. So about 30 students a year choose to go to Denmark for Unit Operations Laboratory. We send a professor and a TA along, and you'll do a number of experiments there. You'll go out and go to cultural experiences in Denmark, as well as visit some industries in the area. Germany, we also at Ruhr University in Bochum, we have about 12 students that go there. They'll do a brief research project and then go into their unit operations studies. If you want to pursue another type of experiential learning, you can do that at Virginia Tech, undergraduate research. So this is Jim Owens. He's at MIT in graduate school now. He made a slide up about his research. He spent anywhere from 3 to 9 hours a week. You can earn credit for that, usually about 3 course credits a semester. And you can research in any of the areas that our professors are teaching in, which are listed here at the bottom of this slide, things like biomedical engineering, colloids interfaces, etc. But you can also do undergraduate research in other departments in biological systems engineering, biomedical engineering, material science, or many of our students may be in chemistry type undergraduate research opportunities. By the time you're a senior, you're moving into now that we know how to scale up in unit operation lab a little bit better, we're going to move into process and plant design, which helps you with process economics. How do we design a chemical plant so that it economically produces a product and produces minimum products that need to be recycled or reused? So Professor Y.A. Liu is our senior design professor, and he'll teach you something called Aspen Plus modeling. This is a industrial flow sheet model that allows you to do different types of flow sheet development, looking at alternatives on a basis of cost and optimization. So that's what you would do your senior year. A number of students work with local industries during that time: Eastman Chemical, Matrix up in West Virginia, Novozymes, or Universal Fibers. Chemical engineers make a good living. About salaries are in the mid 70s range, $75,000 a year. A portion of those students will get relocation bonuses or starting bonuses. And there's significant growth in chemical engineering. The past year, things have not been what they were, but right now things are starting to come back. Companies are starting to hire again. And we see a lot more activity on the hiring front. Some of the companies that work with us for co-ops and internships are shown here. Avonic over in Eastern Virginia. West Rock is a paper company. You can go do a co-op with them. They really love our students. BAE Systems, I have about 2 students a year, 2 to 3 students a year that will do a co-op program in Radford, which is near here, or in southwestern Virginia. The Clorox Company. Now, you may think of Clorox, well, that's bleach. Well, they do Hidden Valley Ranch and Burt's Bees and things like Kingsford charcoal. So they're not just chlorine bleach. AdvanSix, Anheuser-Busch sometimes hires our students. So that's all we had for you regarding the department today. We wanted to leave sufficient time so that you could ask questions in the Q&A area. So what topics from AP Chemistry are the most used or good to study extra?
So I took AP Chemistry, and in terms of transferable skills, I mean, the thing is that it's not really appropriate to equate chemistry to chemical engineering. They're different, but in AP Chemistry, I would say what was very useful for me coming into college was the problem solving mindset that you have to go in to work through like a long multifaceted problem in AP Chemistry. Same for really any AP STEM class like AP Physics, AP Calculus. Yeah, sorry, it's not terribly specific answer, but I mean, I don't know.
I can add on to that. I was thinking as you were answering, I think like topics that you might want to pay attention to would be like equilibrium, anytime you do like your reaction rice tables, because those will come back in your chemical engineering curriculum. So if there's something that you really want to hone in on, those will be the things to do. I can't think of any other big topics right now that we discussed in AP Chemistry that are also like popped up in the Chemie curriculum, but those are the first 2 that I can think of.
With all engineers doing a year of general engineering, is acceptance into chemical engineering guaranteed after that, or can it fill up? I think I can answer that one probably the best, since these students are a few years out from that. Yeah, so in chemical engineering, if you earn a 3.0, I believe that you can get into most of the engineering majors. You're guaranteed if you earn a 3.0 after your first year in general engineering. But we're wide open in chemical engineering right now. We have not hit our cap. So there's a cap for different departments. And up to this point, we haven't been oversubscribed. We're still, so even if you're below a 3.0 after your first year, there's a high probability that you'll be able to get into chemical engineering. What's the main difference in chemistry itself versus chemical engineering in terms of curriculum at Virginia Tech? I can answer that, but does anyone want to? Okay, well,
they're very different. I would just say,
yeah,
super different. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, Ian? Do you know I know what the difference is? But
So I mean, the thing is, in chemical engineering, what you're going to take, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm probably thinking of at least 8 to 10 core chemical engineering class. I mean, they are taught through the chemical engineering department. Like, you have to be a chemical engineering major to take them, and they use principles of chemistry to a point. But in some classes, it's as if your knowledge of chemistry, like, well, it doesn't come up at all in it. And then in others, it's touched on more heavily. Whereas a chemistry major is much more focused on, I would say, by and large, on synthesis of compounds on a smaller scale. Maybe that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but they're going to do a lot more classes, and they're going to take more advanced organic chemistry classes and more advanced analytical chemistry classes and more labs of that sort. They're not going to take as much math either, but I mean, Dr. Whiting and
Yeah, so I have an undergraduate degree in chemistry. I pursued that degree, and my senior year in chemistry, I was looking at, wow, what I didn't know what a chemical engineer was when I came out of high school. My my high school advisor never mentioned it. So I went in chemistry at a small college, but then I wanted to transfer into chemical engineering. So I came to Virginia Tech at that time and took virtually all the undergraduate Chem E courses. And I really think it just adds a whole nother dimension to things. I was more interested in scaling up, producing products on a commercial scale, or improving chemical processes to make things on a commercial scale. So things like energy utilization. It was during the energy crisis, and understanding combustion efficiency of automotive vehicles. That would be something that a chemist really wouldn't have any understanding of, but we do heat transfer, mass transfer, fluid flow, etc. So it just a whole nother dimension to what you would learn beyond chemistry. Got a question here on athletics. Do any of our students have experience with a friend or anything? Because I can answer this again, but no. Okay. So Carter, we do have D1 athletes in chemical engineering. We've had swimmers. We had a soccer player that graduated 2 years ago, did very well in his studies. Right now, we have a baseball player. Yeah, so you can do this, okay, if you focus, all right? And you're going to have, Ian, you know a little bit about some of the tutoring you can get. So Ian's a tutor for athletes. There's really a disciplined study regimen for athletes, D1 athletes at Virginia Tech. So it's very doable. You will be excused from some classes. Senior year is when it probably, gets a little more difficult, but our D1 soccer player was able to go to all his games and participate. So I don't think there's no downside to that. So I wouldn't fear that if you're a good student and focused on doing well both in your athletics. And my nephew was a D1 shot putter at Arizona State, and he's a civil engineer, so it can be done.
There was also something in Carter's question about, can you do a co-op while playing a sport? For track and field, the answer is yes. I've tutored people in, like, particularly in track and field and swimming. Those sports are a little more flexible than say football would be when it comes to taking off a semester or a summer or whatever it is to go out and work, intern, co-op, whatever.
So the next one, are there any more specialized classes from high school, such as statistics, that might be helpful to take before coming to Virginia Tech?
Any classes where you code would be a good addition, because you do a good amount of coding in any engineering major, including chemical engineering. It's also helpful to take some baseline classes that you'll take again in college, like physics and chemistry, just so that when you go through them the second time in college, you have a good understanding of them, and it will help you keep a high GPA. Yeah.
Different engineering major, are there any minors or classes I could take to have a basis of understanding of chemical engineering? So I think you could take mass and energy balances. You could probably take the introductory course. It's not going to, there's not a minor. You can't get a minor in chemical engineering. But the other majors, that they're going to have some similar courses to what you would take in chemical engineering. So yeah, the only thing you could take is the first introductory course to chemical engineering. What is a good minor double major to add with chemical engineering? Someone want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I got a chemistry minor. As we kind of like talked about briefly in the last session, the chemistry minor is fairly easy to get with the major because I think there's only one or two classes that you need outside of chemical engineering to get the minor. Like I took analytical chemistry as my one outside class, and it managed to double as my minor class and also for a tech elective. So that would be a good one to get if you want to get a minor. And also if you're interested in chemistry as well, you want to go a little deeper into the subject than just like the basic classes that you need to start with chemical engineering, that would also be a good minor for you as well.
I would say,
go ahead, Sarah.
I would say a good minor or a good major is anything that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be related at all to chemical engineering. And I think Ian probably has a lot to elaborate on.
Yeah, so I'm a Russian double major, which I didn't come into college thinking I would ever do that, but it just, interests change, and that's what's great about Virginia Tech is you do have that flexibility to, you do not have to just stick with solely doing chemical engineering for 4 or 5 years or whatever. Like you can stick with it and branch out and do other things, and it's great. It's just great.
Yeah, so we have probably the most of our double majors are chemistry majors. Chemistries, they have 4 different types of majors that can go with chemical engineering as either 2 degrees, or so you can be a BS in chemistry, a BA in chemistry, a polymer chemistry major, or a medicinal chemistry major. So we have a couple students that are doing that. It's there's a lot of courses to take. There's some overlap in that, and it can be done if you're really interested. But certainly, yeah, I echo what our students have said about minors. We have all kinds of different minors, ones that are learning about patent law, nuclear engineering minors becoming popular, biomedical, of course, food science minors. If you are interested in working for one of the food companies, you can take a bunch of courses over there and really get a good degree in chemical engineering. All right, next question. I understand the School of Engineering is very difficult to get into, but is it something I need to apply to as I'm very interested in chemical engineering career path? What are the possibilities to transfer from another school college into the College of Engineering, into chemical engineering in a second year? So from that standpoint, there's a couple of pathways into chemical engineering that I've seen as an advisor here. Virginia community colleges, you can take the first 2 years at Virginia Community College. They have programs where I believe there's progression into into engineering in general. So definitely go to a Virginia Community College near you. I don't know if you're in Virginia. If you're in Virginia, look at Virginia Community Colleges, talk to their advisors on how you would make that transition. That's a good way to get into engineering at Virginia Tech. The other thing is, if you don't come into the School of Engineering, let's say you apply to Virginia Tech, but you're accepted into chemistry or another curriculum, there's no guarantee that you're going to get into chemical engineering, but we do have students that move from other majors into chemical engineering because at this point we're not filled up, we're not at capacity for chemical engineering. So if we have room in the major and a student has earned good grades in their major, their current major, they can apply to come into engineering at some future date in chemical engineering. That's been our experience. We can't guarantee that's going to be the same going forward, but that does happen. Do any of our students have thoughts on applying to how you apply? Do you recall? It's been 3 or 4 years, 5 years,
6 years for me.
6 years ago.
Just read the website. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you probably do is fill out the application and you're going to indicate what curriculum you want to go into. So there'll be some kind of box, or I know in engineering you're going to have essay questions, right? You're going to have to fill out certain essay questions. Take those essay questions very seriously. Have them be your own work. Don't take someone else's thought on this. Go sit out somewhere in a field and think about, hey, how can I answer this question to the best of my ability? And then come back and write those because they do get read. Yeah, so it's probably pretty straightforward when you start applying. It's a matter of checking boxes and making sure your essay questions are filled out appropriately. How do career opportunities as a chemical engineer, say different engineering degrees such as mechanical, anyone have a view of that?
Yeah, I have a lot of mechanical engineering friends, and a lot of the jobs are similar. Like you can both go into manufacturing support. It's like you could work for International Paper, you could work for a lot of the same manufacturing companies. The work outside of manufacturing companies is where it differs. Like chemical engineers typically can go into process design much more easily than mechanical engineers do, because chemical engineers can size pumps and tanks and deal with flows. Their training is more tailored to that than mechanical engineering, which is a lot more dealing with how maybe designing the tank itself, designing parts for different stresses. Mechanical engineering is a lot more part design, and chemical engineering is a lot more process design. So I would say that's the main difference, but so many of the jobs are the same. Like you can go into different consulting jobs and manufacturing support. Yeah, pretty similar, but some differences.
He's asking about biomedical research opportunities. Does one of the students want to answer this? Yes.
I mean, I can, from the standpoint of I haven't done it here, but I know a lot of students that do research, we'll say more generally outside of the Department of Chemical Engineering. You're not bound to do research within the department. But the biomedical engineering, I guess it is a department now, right, Dr. Whiting?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's relatively newer here, but it is growing really quickly, as far as I understand. And I know a lot of people that are getting involved with that. But another thing to look into is research opportunities outside of Virginia Tech, possibly over the summer through the National Science Foundation. I actually did do some biomedical research at the University of Texas at Austin one summer. That's not really like a VT focused answer, but Virginia Tech will support you in getting those opportunities.
Right. So that was an REU, a research experience for undergrads. Yeah, we help promote those. So you certainly can do that. And about 10% of our undergraduate students are going to do a biomedical minor. Chemical engineering has been a traditional path for entering biomedical engineering. So those students that want to be more focused and broad in chemical engineering, yet have a biomedical focus, will do that route rather than going directly into biomedical engineering, which some of the aspects of biomedical here are more on the mechanics side of things, structural mechanical, whereas we're more chemical focused. So Thanks for that question. Asking how similar is high school chem classes to taking the college chem? D'Angelo or Sarah's opening her mic. So.
Yeah. So a lot of chemical engineers, they don't take the intro chemistry classes because they took AP Chem in high school. That wasn't the case for me. I never took AP Chem, so I did have to take the intro classes. And I found that they were not that similar to what I took in high school. But if you took AP classes, my understanding is that it's pretty similar to that. I feel like high school chemistry just kind of lays the foundation, but the college chemistry goes into a lot more detail and a lot of different topics. And as a chemical engineer, you also take a few additional chemistry classes than the baseline ones. You take organic chemistry, which is about the synthesis of molecules. And then you also take physical chemistry, which is it's more about heat and energy than it is about molecules. So yeah, quite different from high school, but unless you took AP, I don't know if Ian or D'Angelo took AP, but yeah.
I did, yeah, but I wouldn't know how to compare it to Gen Chem here.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Okay. Thank you all for that. We're gonna.
After fighting, can I jump in real fast? I think I messed up on the Q&A. There was someone who had asked a question about an engineering dorm. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, can I jump in and answer that?
Yeah, sure.
That was there on the list. But there is an engineering dorm. The program is called Galileo and Hypatia, and it's hosted in Hogue Hall now. It's normally, not normally, but it is a program for first year engineering students. I was in it my first year. You have a lot of activities that really focused on your social development to get you really integrated into the college atmosphere. You can also get help with certain subjects from sophomores that are also in the dorm, and you can also get help from other freshmen that are in the dorm. Most of us would be doing homework and the study lounges and all that stuff, which was really helpful. You also get help with professional development to prepare you for Engineering Expo, and they also do some service learning. I don't exactly have the link right now for the Galopecia community. I can probably go in and find it and drop it in the chat. But if that's something that you're interested in, the dorm program is called Galileo and Hypatia, and it's hosted in Hogue Hall. So be sure to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere on VT, or you can find it on Google. So when the applications come out, you can go ahead and submit it and get admitted.
Yeah, they have a fab lab there, don't they?
They have an Invents lab. I forgot all about the Invents lab. I think there's still a 3D printer, wire cutters. So if you're real creative, you like to do things with your hands, or you want to learn a new skill, you can also do that in Hogue Hall as well.
Okay, thank you. The next question is typical class size. Who's up? Who wants to talk? Sarah, you want to talk about typical class size?
I don't know if Paige means the overall class size, if she's asking if it gets smaller and smaller by senior year as people switch majors, or if you're talking about actually sitting inside a class, how many people are in your math class, how many people are in your chemistry class. I can answer the second one. I don't really know about the first, but so the second, your sophomore classes, sometimes you'll still be taking more general classes some physics and some chemistry, and those classes will be larger. They could be up to 300 people, but most of your classes will be 50 people, or sometimes they'll be smaller, 30 or 20 people, depends on what you're taking. And then because chemi is, the number of people in the class is about roughly 100, there's a lot of classes that every chemi will be in. We have reactors and controls, and every person in the major that year that's taking that class will be in the same class. So those classes can also be large, 100 people. But it's great because you have people that in every class that you can work with to learn the material.
Yeah, it's quite different from when I was in school. We didn't have the technology that we have today. Each of the classrooms has 2 screens, and we're using Canvas. So nearly all the professors have their information up on Canvas. You can be following it at your desk. There's study aids, there's all kinds of things. So much easier to have a larger class in this environment than it was back before all that. So, okay, how far does AP credit go towards classes required for chemical engineering? For example, what classes would be getting a 5 on the AP account for? Well, I think probably.
Answer that one.
Okay, good.
So I did AP and IB. There were a few credits that transferred over for me, specifically my math credit. My math credit got me out of 1225, which I think is the first freshman class. And I think the few of my English classes were able to get me out of the first freshman year English writing classes. So most of your AP credits are going to go towards like your elective classes and things you need to knock out, your CLEs or your pathways. As far as your chemistry and math classes, I would personally, because for me, I didn't take the 1225 credit, even though I got AP credit for it, just because I wanted to make sure I was prepared going into the major. So I definitely say, even if you do have a chemistry credit, I would suggest still trying to take the class here, but really it's up to your discretion. And I'd also suggest that whatever AP credit that you have, and specifically like to the math and sciences, that you speak to your advisor about it first before you take it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, DeAngelo. What we tend to say, and Dr. Durrell, who was before in this role, he says, if you're going to be bored in chemistry, freshman chemistry, if you're very gifted and you're going to be bored, then think about moving on. But for most people, you're going to want to get a solid GPA. And so taking the chemistry courses here, the first year of chemistry is generally the best idea. And I think what our first year people also recommend. So that's a good question, Johnny. Thank you for that. Okay, pharma companies. What pharma companies have you had graduates go to again? Additionally, would you estimate how many get into research and development? So I know that, but if there's any students that have some firsthand knowledge of that, I would let them do it. Otherwise, no. Okay, I'll take this. So Merck is in Virginia, the state of Virginia. Merck has a facility and they typically hire a student or two every year. Let's see, Pfizer down in North Carolina has a couple facilities where they are loading injectables. They've hired our students before. Janssen Pharmaceuticals, which is a division of J&J. I was just on a call this past week with Rachel Blackstone. She's a scientist there. They're looking for a couple people this year. They're looking for folks that have some experience. They're looking for folks that had internships or co-ops, which is pretty typical. Now, I asked her the specific question, Kevin, so a good question. I said, can a bachelor's degree chemical engineer come in and go into research and development, drug discovery at Janssen J&J? And she said that yes, the paths are there are paths that work through that. You can do that. If you go on for an advanced degree, you're probably going to have more capability to do deep research into drug discovery, that type of thing. We have one professor here that's doing liver studies, artificial liver, tissue engineering work. We have another one that's doing microfluidics for separating RNA and DNA. So you can go onto our website and take a look at that and what's going on there. But good question, Kevin. All right, next question is, I'm looking into biochem. Most schools include either offer bio or chemi, not biochem. Is there a possibility to double major in biological engineering and chemical engineering? No, we don't have biological engineering. We have something called we have biological systems engineering and chemical engineering. But certainly you can take biochemistry with chemical engineering. You can pick up biology courses and augment your chemical engineering courses here with biological systems types things. Now, our biological systems engineering, you can also go to their info sessions and hear about what they are involved in. It's a little bit different curriculum in the sense that they're going to be on water treatment side of things. Do any of you have experience or friends in that? Any of our students?
I did research in the biological systems engineering department.
Yeah.
And what I would maybe suggest you look into is majoring in chemical engineering and doing research in biological systems engineering, because the jobs that you think of that you probably want, you can get with a chemical engineering degree, and employers might prefer that over a biological systems degree. So it was just something I would suggest looking into, is doing research in it instead of majoring in biological systems.
Okay. Does anyone know about this, the band program?
I know a few people that are in the Marching Virginians. If you're referring to the marching band, yes. I mean, a lot of people. I don't know if there's a lot, but I know, like, I could list at least probably 5 off the top of my head. I know that are, some are in chemi, some are in others, but yeah, it's
Okay. Yeah, done all the time. Okay, those are some great questions. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we're out of time. The time has just flown. If you have additional questions, you can send them via email to me, gwhiting@vt.edu. You can find me on the chemical engineering website, and I can redirect questions to students to get you your answers if you want. So thanks for spending time with us on this Saturday evening. And I want to thank our Q&A students here, DeAngele, Sarah, and Ian. Thank you very much for devoting time out of your day to helping out. And I hope to see some of you at Virginia Tech in the future. Take care.